Good evening, Midrealm. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you joining us tonight. Welcome, Your Majesties.
You are all good to go. Yay.
Thank you very much. Let's try this again. Good evening, Midrealm. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you join us this evening for a fireside chat with the Crown, Ullr and AnneLyse. Wow, my moderator skills are jumping off to a great start here as I'm stumbling over my own words. Just wanted to say, everybody, this evening, for those of you that do not know, I'm Tonis Van Driel. Their Majesties, Ullr and AnneLyse, have asked us to have a series of fireside chats with them for the next several weeks to reconnect and ask several questions or answer several questions of yours from the kingdom. So this evening, they'll be responding to various questions that you have submitted. Essentially, tonight is going to be a relaxed, kind of unscripted interview where we will get to as many of the questions submitted as we can. This will also be a discussion, so the conversation could go all kinds of fun directions. While the base questions were all submitted by Populous members, I'll likely be expanding on those as we progress through the night. And just for logistics for the viewers, this will not go longer than 1 hour. Your Majesties, did you have some opening words before we get started this evening?
Good evening, Midrealm. Thank you, Master Tonis. And a special shout out to Lady Sarah, who is helping us behind the scenes to make sure that this can happen. We literally could not do this without her. So next time you see her, give her a big pat on the back and a hand clap. We're very excited to be able to come to you and share a little bit of our lives with you and hopefully answer some questions that you have sent in. Some of these we have seen and talked about, and some will be surprises. And that's just kind of the fun of what we want to have happen with these fireside chats. That's it. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. So take it away, Tonis.
Outstanding. Thank you, Your Majesties. Okay, well, we have 10 questions that were sent in, and the first one appears to be somebody very new to the society. So her question is, and I'll read it verbatim. Hail to Your Majesties. I'm new to the SCA and its feudal system. I have been poking around information on all sorts of things, but was wondering, how does one move up in ranks? Is it only through combat, or are there other ways the citizens can become knights, barons, ladies, etc.? Thank you.
A great question, and it's one of those things that you sort of have to figure out as you get in the SCA. So this is a great place to be asking that question. The answer is no, it's not only through combat. There are a ton of other ways to move up. The nice thing about the SCA is that whatever your interest is, or your fun thing is, as long as you're doing it super well and you're doing it in support of the society, you are going to get recognized for that and move up through the system. And there are ways to become the top leaders and the peers and all of that. So basics, there are 4 different peerage tracks, which is what we call our highest level awards, our peerages. So you have the chivalry, which is for the heavy fighting. You have the laurels, which are for arts and sciences. So super diverse group of people doing all kinds of things that were done in the Middle Ages. You have the pelicans, and they are just the heartblood of the society in so many ways. They are those who have served where others will not, and then have served to sometimes to the greatest extent possible. They are the ones who are recognized for just going above and beyond and giving of themselves to the society. And then you have our newest peerage, which is only a few years old now, more than a few, but the Masters of Defense. And so those are people who are recognized for excellence in the rapier fighting, the lighter combat. Those are the peerages, but there are a whole slew of awards and recognitions below that for every activity under the sun. And those vary a little bit kingdom to kingdom, whereas the peerages are society-wide. That covers the basics.
And one of the parts of this question I think is really great is the person asked about barons in particular. And we have a lot of landed nobility, barons or baronesses, who aren't fighters, in fact, aren't even authorized, but yet they hold land in fief from the crown. And while that's not 100% to say it's a popular vote, the landed nobility are voted upon by the members of the populace of that barony. And they sit in holding those lands in fief from the crown. And so that's you don't have to fight, you don't have to art, though we encourage you to do whatever you want, but you can still hold those higher levels of higher offices and serve the kingdom and the society and the people in different ways.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Your Majesties. We'll just go ahead and move into the next one. I'm sure we're going to be adding some extra conversation as we go here. The next one's really, I think, relevant to our current world situation or our kingdom situation. So we're very interested to hear your insights here in lieu of the current situation. Question is, I find that I'm having difficulty meeting people outside of my immediate group, and traveling alone to be alone at an event is, well, lonely. What is your best advice for connecting across the kingdom?
So I don't think this is just a new person issue.
Agreed.
I think even some of us who have been around for a long time have this connection issue. But with a new person in mind, I might lend this idea out. We are a social organization. Now, sometimes we may not seem like that to a newer person or a person looking in, because we do kind of glom onto our friends. And right now it's really tough because for most of us, we haven't seen our friends a lot for the last 2 years. And our SCA friends become our family. So please don't get put off. What I'm going to encourage anyone in this situation is to get on the social media outlets, the kingdom pages, the local group pages, the event pages, and you kind of got to hold yourself out there a little bit. But if you just post out, hey, I'm interested in fill in the blank, and then become a little bit of that outward geek. We're all geeks. We just geek in different ways. Someone shares that interest. And that's a great way to start building relationships. And then once you're at an event, seek out a class. You don't really need a buddy to go to a class. Our teachers are very welcoming. Just go in and hang out. If you're in there because of your interest, so is everyone else. And now you can start building some camaraderie with the students that you're in there with. It's really tough to drive to events alone. Both Her Majesty and I at various times have had to do this prior to this current reign. And it gets kind of old, and we get that. But use that time to listen to a great book, and then when you get to the event, you've got some new bit of information to share with those other students. We're very welcoming. Just come up and say hi. And if you see us, with the big shiny hats, come and introduce yourselves. We would love to talk to new folks who are showing up, especially after this pandemic. We are geeks too.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit to that, just because His Majesty and I come at this from slightly different viewpoints. I am not an extrovert. People are terrifying, and that's okay. What I will say is that if that is also you, there's a lot of us like that in the society, but we're very fond of our particular thing. So you will often find me like sitting in a corner or under a day shade or in a chair or wherever I can find, and I'll be null binding or sewing or working on some project. And I'm not like with anybody, and I'm not trying to be alone. So if you come up and approach me or most other people in that situation and you have a moment of what you working on, I will usually talk your ear off because you've shown interest in what I'm doing and now I have a new friend. But I'm terrible at making new friends that don't come to me. It's a learned activity for me. And it's usually that I've done the same thing to someone else. I've wandered over and gone, okay, that's really cool. And I want to learn how to do that. Can you show me? And that's my best way of making new friends. Cause I'm not an extrovert and I don't hit people with sticks for funsies and make new friends that way, like some people. So I think it's you do have to put yourself out there a little bit. And then those of us that are introverts try and remember to look for others that are hanging out by themselves and just, go hang out together quietly doing our things.
Yeah, I think that this question really shows why social media is important for us. Social media should be exactly that, social. So we have an opportunity to talk to our friends literally from all over the world. In the last 2 weeks, I've spoken with folks from Lokak, which is Australia, Drachenwald, which is most of Europe. Let's see, I was speaking with a Russian gentleman earlier in the week who wants to start an SCA group in his locale. I don't know these folks, but I have a social media contact with them. And I think that for anyone coming in right now, especially, that's a great way to get started. And find those one or two contacts. This is kind of that comic book Batman to Flash concept. Just find one. And once you find one person to talk to, they're going to introduce you to, well, probably more people than you really want to talk to at a given time. But that's a great start.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you. And Your Majesty, AnneLyse, if I can expand on that question a little bit, kind of go off of our normal questions. You mentioned something, and I want to expand on this concept of geekdom. And since you're sitting currently at the highest level of recognition we have in the society.
I'm Queen of Geek.
You mentioned that you like to sit around and doing null binding.
Yes.
Would you be willing to just talk for a few moments about what that is and why you got involved in it and what makes it so fun so that you can share your geekiness with the rest of us?
I absolutely will. And if we hadn't moved furniture around, I would have null binding right here that I could pick up, but we moved furniture, so I don't have it. So null binding is essentially the Viking version of knitting. So His Majesty and I are both fairly early period personas. And so knitting wasn't so much a thing. Crochet wasn't so much a thing. They had this single needle method of turning yarn into fabrics, generally mittens, hats, socks, things like that. And so I picked it up because it was appropriate to our time period. And it is time consuming and it keeps my hands busy. And it's a ton of fun, and I've made all kinds of things. And like even my mundane work office has null bind hand warmers for when my fingers get chilly typing all day. I've given out hats to all kinds of people and friends and everyone that I come in contact with because I tend to make more than I can wear. So that's briefly what it is. It is closer, null binding itself is closer to like tying fishnets because you're tying a series of knots in the fabric rather than looping the way you do with knitting or crochet. And unless you want me to keep going for the next hour, I'm going to stop there.
I appreciate you sharing that, Your Majesty, because just the fact of you having the little glad hands of showing your excitement shows there's so many different things in this society that we can all get excited about at any level. And to see you being able to share that, I think goes a long way for people to realize there's a space for me.
Absolutely. I am a big fan, and I heard it when I joined the SCA, and you don't realize how true it is until you've been in for a while. But the idea that any modern interest you have, there is a medieval version of that. And if you ask around, you will find someone else who is fascinated by that thing. Now they might, live across the country or live across the globe, but we don't let that get in our way. We've got the modern technology to let us connect that way about our medieval things. And so it's the best of both, right?
Absolutely. Great. Thank you very much, Your Majesty. So moving on to our next submitted question. This is a little more personal. And I'd like for both of you to offer your individual insights, if you would. What made you want to be the crown of the Middle Kingdom?
This time or the first time?
Yes. I'll give a good old tried and true answer. Yes.
I'll start.
Okay, go for it.
So I'm gonna kick us back in the Wayback Machine 12, 13 years ago. I don't know. It's been a while. I had been helping a number of my friends train for Crown, and I'm mundanely, I'm a martial artist, so it seemed very natural for me to help train people to excel. And somewhere in the process of helping train my friends, I thought, hey, you know what, I'd kind of like to do this. And so I spoke with Anne about us sitting. We literally chewed on the idea for months, whether or not we wanted to, we could we do a good job, and so on and so on. And then we fought a crown tournament, and we did not win. I made it to the finals, and I was like, what the heck have I just done? And it was scary.
Terrifying.
And then we took a step back, and then we fought again, and I did not make it to the finals. I think I made it in the top 4-ish maybe. And then the third crown tournament that we fought, I won and made her a princess. And so it was, for me, it was not just that I get to go and show off. It was not that I get to put Anne on the throne. It was that we could serve the kingdom. And skipping ahead a bit, come last June, we had another several week-long conversation about what was happening in the kingdom with a return to events after COVID, what that was going to look like, and how we thought we could help the kingdom. And it really comes down to not whether or not anyone else couldn't do the job, because there were a lot of people who fought in Crown that absolutely could do the job and do it very well. We thought that our experience, our skills, our knowledge, and our abilities, and our understanding of the society, and our personal lives, both of us could bring something to the kingdom and help us have a fairly positive return to events.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot for me to add to that. Every time we've done this, and this is our third time around for those of you that haven't been around for 12 plus years. This is our third time around, but every time we've done this, it's been a conversation about why we're doing it, what we think we can give to the kingdom while we're on the throne, and all of those sorts of things. I mean, there's no doubt that in the first and second times you're doing it because it's something new and fun and different, and you have no idea what you're getting into the first time, but that's okay, because there's lots of people that sit the throne for the first time. And you know, you think you know what you're getting into, you don't, it's okay. But there is a hope that you will be good for the kingdom, and that you will be, that the choices you make, the decisions you make, and the way that you represent the mid-realm will be positive. And I think especially this last time. So third time around, we don't get any. First time around, since there are newcomers based on our first question, listening to this, the first time around when you sit the throne, you become Count and Countess after you step down. The second time around when you step down, you become Duke and Duchess. The third time around, you are still Duke and Duchess. There's no super benefits to doing this a third time. So this time it really was, it was a long, hard discussion of where are we in our lives? Where's the kingdom right now? Do we have the time? Do we have the energy to give the kingdom what it needs, or what we think the kingdom needs? I mean, all of this is based on us, our personal viewpoints, the viewpoints of people we talk to, the other peers, the other populace members, our friends and family that we talk to about where the kingdom is, what the feeling is, and how we can best give back. We came to the decision that we can best give back by trying to reign again, and luck of the draw, or luck of the stick that day, we were back on the thrones, and hopefully we're doing a good job. But I think that's really it. It's a very personal decision every time you make a decision to fight in Crown, and everyone's got their own reasons. But hopefully, everyone that does it is similar to us, and that they're doing it because they want the best for the kingdom. And I think that's generally true.
Well, you actually both kind of touched on something that I want to ask before we go into our next question, which actually is a great segue into the next question by something else you said. But you hinted that the first time around, as much, if not the last time around, that you had a discussion because it sounds like there was some reticence as to whether or not you should actually compete. Would you like to expound on that? Because I think there's a lot of people that think, hey, it would be great to wear the hat. Why the reticence?
I'm going first.
Okay.
So the first 2 times we did this, I was in grad school for my master's and my PhD. That's a lot to juggle. So it wasn't necessarily, do we want to do the thing? Do we think we can do a good job? It was, can I like physically, mentally make all of this come together and work? And yeah, we did. It was, I can say, having done that in my master's program, my PhD program, and now like with a 9-to-5 job, it's a very different mental space each of those times. But yeah, there's a lot of that can we do it?
Yeah, so I'll build on that. Taking our mundane life concerns that we had at those in our first 2 crowns away. The first time you win crown, and as a fighter, your helm comes off and you think to yourself, I have no idea what to do now. Because you've spent all of your time focused on that moment. And then there's a period of time, and usually fairly brief, where you're like, crap, I don't know what to do. And the answer to that is go and hug your partner and give her a kiss or give him a kiss. That's the answer. But your brain is mush. You don't know. And I kind of joke about that because even if you think you're ready for your first crown victory, you're not. You're going to run into a half dozen situations before you go from your crown victory to being coronated that you go, I have no idea what to do next. And thankfully, you have a great curia, you have a great partner, which I do. You have friends and advisors who can help you. And you just have to kind of know to ask. But the first reign is hard because you don't even know what you don't know. So you don't know what you need to know to ask someone what you need to know. It can be a real challenge. And then your second reign, you're trying to, kind of do better. And you have an idea. Sometimes you have an agenda. Sometimes you have desires of things you would like to do and accomplish. And I think the second reigns go better and easier. This reign certainly is going better and easier. Yeah. Administratively, at least, right?
It seems to be.
Yeah.
No, but I coming back to the concept of reticence, for this reign especially, it was a lot of conversation, and a lot of it came back to the current situation, not so much the current situation of the kingdom, but the current situation of the world. His Majesty actually has a lung disease, so there was a lot of, can we do this safely if we choose to do this? There was a lot of are we, especially knowing what we know after 2 reigns, it was, are we the right choice? Do we think we are what the kingdom needs? And I don't know if everyone agrees that we're what the kingdom needs, but we're trying our best. And as Ullr said, as His Majesty said, there is no doubt that there were, I think any of the other competitors in Crown would have been good for the kingdom. So I think that's beneficial. There was no wrong answer. It just, and hopefully there was no wrong answer because every one of those couples looked at each other and said, are we good for the kingdom? It went into that knowing this is not going to be a normal reign. Hence video fireside chats. But I think there was a lot of that discussion in a lot of households.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you. That actually leads us really well into our next question, which I want to preface with, you've explained the nature of why you wanted to sit this time around because of the nature of the world issues in general. But in a more generic sense, if there's, as you said, Your Majesty, no special kudos and things for reigning a third time or more, then why would you choose to reign a third time?
I can't answer this one very well because I had no desire to do this a third time until we really started having the discussion of, okay, so the kingdom needs someone with experience. The kingdom needs someone, hopefully, who's going to be science guided. And, you know, I think we could be that, and it's going to be different, and it's going to be weird, and let's give it a shot. So I got nothing.
I got one.
You might have thought about a third. I didn't.
So I'm a competitor at heart, and of course, I always wanted to sit the throne again. Not because, well, I do like the competition of a crown, no doubt, right? But I like the competition at an archery range and on the fencing field and at an arts competition. I think I'm just a competitor. So let me tell you something about sitting in these chairs. We get to see things that no one else gets to see. And what we get to see is the smile, the joy, the fluttering pulse, the near fainting of the people who we give awards to. And one of the only real powers of the crown is to give awards. That is one of the things that we get to do. I've often said that no matter the hardships of training for crown or to sit in these chairs, I'd do it every day if I knew that every person could get the awards that they were deserving of. And the only way that I can make sure that that happens is if we're here, or if we're writing recommendations to the crown. I've had folks literally in tears in front of us getting an AOA after 20 years. You know, and we're not as huggy right now because of the pandemic, but in the before times, you have to help them up because they're so moved. We get to do that, and that is something that I am absolutely passionate about, and that is helping people up. I want to build a bigger table. And the only way I can build a bigger table for everyone to sit at is if I have a room to do it in. And maybe that metaphor doesn't work for everyone, but we as Crown get an opportunity to recognize people for the awesome things they do. I have a belief that the Crown is we're the chair people of culture for the kingdom. We try to make the mid-realm more mid-realmy, and some of that is helping people rise up. Bake more pies, build a bigger table, whatever it takes. We want everybody to have fun. Yep, done.
It is absolutely the best part of being Crown is giving awards and being able to celebrate and recognize the people that we get to see. And you get to see a lot more of the kingdom and the society from, well, not physically these chairs, but the position of being king and queen. You get that exposure to so many more things. One of my favorite things, because I am not an artist in any way, shape, or form when it comes to drawing and painting and things like that, but I get to sign all the scrolls, which means I get to see them all up close, and they are so cool and pretty, and I love them so much. And I get to see some of them in pictures or from the audience side of court when I'm not in the thrones, but that might be my favorite thing, is getting to see the scrolls and then hand off little personalized bits of art that I've scrawled my name on. There are amazingly cool things that you can do, that you get to do, that you get to see while being on a throne. And for some people, that's something they want to keep doing. They want to keep being part of the society and giving to the society in that way. And So that would be reasons to do this multiple times. There's people in other kingdoms who have done this, well, in this kingdom, that have done this many, many, many times. It's just not my personal preference. This just seemed like the right thing somehow this time around. My long rambly answer.
King and Queen's word is law. If you want to ramble, Your Majesty, this is your time.
That's
Per your request, I will keep us moving.
Thank you, Douglas.
Next question, I'm going to rephrase slightly because I think it's important to hear from both of you on this, but what advice would Your Royal Majesty the Third give to Your Royal Highness the First?
Okay, so fair warning to everyone. We did have this question ahead of time. We've literally been thinking about this and talking about it in our private time for days. Because the society is so different today than it was, during our first reign, mumbly years ago. That's a real tough one.
Yeah, I keep coming back to this in two different ways. And the first is as His Majesty said, the society was different and we were different. I mean, as I said, I did our first reign while I was a master's student. It was a very different mental, physical, all of that kind of a place. And there are things that I could have said and advice I could have given, but I don't know that first reign me was ready to hear it or could have implemented it in a way. But I think if I had to give one piece of advice, I'd probably be that you don't have to do it all yourself. This kingdom is filled, absolutely filled with people who want nothing more than to see the crown succeed and to make the crown look good. Not just like clothing, but just to make the crown succeed at what they do and to be the crown in this our game world. And they want to help, and when they offer to help, you should take them up on it because it will make your life as crown easier, but it also gives them a platform to shine. I wasn't as good at that in my first reign, and I wish I'd been better, and I'm doing much better at that this time around, I think. I hope, but I think that's a key piece.
And I think just the same for me. I'm not sure that any single piece of advice, like do this, don't do this, could I pass back. But I think the one thing I would say to myself as a new prince is, this is a social organization. Build meaningful relationships. Be sure that you are taking time, instead of trying to do it all, because we did a lot. Instead of trying to do it all, be sure you take some time to build a few more deep relationships. I think that would have served me very well as a younger me.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you for the effort that you've been putting in that question. It definitely is challenging. So moving on to the current situation, our current world environment, what did you miss most, or what do you miss most in the SCA during the shutdown?
I miss the people. We live very rurally, and all of our friends were doing a very good job isolating, as we were. And so for close to 2 years, year and a half, whatever it was, we didn't have any events to go to. And I miss my friends. I miss the people that I saw every weekend, even if they weren't close to me. We knew each other and we know each other. And this is one of those cases where Facebook just isn't the same. It's hard to have those deep, meaningful conversations over social media. But frankly, I missed all the people. I miss the camaraderie and the conversation and the side conversations and the cool things that I knew people were doing, and I missed all of that.
I think I'm very much along the same lines. What I missed was tactile is not quite the right word, but the tactile things, the being able to, you know, celebrate new clothing with a friend, you know, something they've hand sewed for the first time, or being able to show someone null binding not over Zoom, which just doesn't work well at all. But that being able to just take a moment together to celebrate successes. You know, you can like someone and comment on someone's Facebook post or something like that, but it's not the same as, you know, having a ooh, jumping up and down moment with them when they've done something successful, or they've made something really cool, or they've, you know, all of those little things. It's getting to do that in person. You know, it's to be quite frank about it, it's, you know, sitting quietly by a fire at Gulf Wars or Penzic and sharing stories of years past, or, you know, just hanging out, enjoying being. And having those moments. It's much harder to have those amazing, you know, the dream kind of moments in a house with a computer in front of you. It's much easier to have those moments where the mundane world slips away when you're there together in an environment conducive to that, where you're surrounded by canvas tents, or, you know, all of the people are in garb. It's all of those things that create those moments that we look back on years later. And that's what I missed, is getting to make those moments.
I think expanding on that a little bit, you mentioned that one of the best things, one of the few responsibilities and privileges of the Crown is the ability to recognize people and to see that expression on their face, and the as you said, the body shiver, or you know, the momentary fainting, or like, oh my gosh, this is so meaningful to me. How are you dealing with that during the shutdown, so that, you know, one of the few awesome things about being the Crown, you still get to experience that and make sure that your populace experiences it as well?
Yeah, that was challenging. So Felix and Madalena, our predecessors, who went through this for the duration, almost the entire duration of the pandemic and the shutdown, really struggled with that, I know, because they wanted to be givers to the kingdom. We are lucky in that we have a diminished calendar, but not a completely canceled calendar. I cannot imagine the angst that not being able to see the populace when you give them an award might cause. And that said, we have a virtual court tomorrow because of a canceled event.
We're going to find out what it feels like, and I'm sure it's going to be different, but hopefully it'll still be good as best as we can make it.
The good news is we know that in a few weeks, when we get out of the current variant upswing, we may be able to see the folks that we give awards to tomorrow and shake their hands, or give them a bow, or touch feet, or whatever it is that is appropriate to do, in the current world, and see their faces and their smiles, or at least their eyes.
Well, and that actually leads us also to understanding, in your opinion, especially when it's hard because we're not having as many in-person events, oftentimes it's hard to see what people are actually doing right now. How important is it to update award recommendations, or seek out those opportunities of people doing the right things now when it's hard to see? How important is that to do now, and how important is it to even update things that were submitted a year ago that were never potentially gotten to?
Super, super, super important. I mean, even in the best of the times, even in a non-pandemic-y world, the Crown can't be everywhere. The Crown can't see everything. So we very much rely, using the royal we there, whoever's in these seats, very much relies on the populace of the Mid-Realm to point out the cool things they see people doing. Because a lot of those things don't happen at events, and a lot of those things, are, or if they happen at an event, I still can't be everywhere. And so it's absolutely critical. We try and keep as much of contact as we can by getting to all the different parts of the events we get to, traveling across the kingdom as much as we can, keeping active ourselves on social media, so much more than I do when I'm not on the throne. And trying to see and celebrate those things and recognize them and be aware of them, but making sure that your populace, everyone is putting in award recommendations for the people you see doing good things is so important. And keeping them up to date. The most important thing to keep up to date is where the Crown might catch them to give them an award. So that's really important. The Crown's not, at least in our case, we're not going to hold 3-hour courts, mostly because my bum goes numb. And so I wish I could, but I can't give out every single award that comes into us. I would if I could, but I can't. Just I physically can't. So, because an award you recommend doesn't get given doesn't mean the Crown doesn't think that person is worthy. It simply means that it didn't make it onto that particular list. For whatever reason, whether that's logistics or the Crown knew something you didn't about that person being there or something else that's going on in the world. All kinds of things go into the factors of what gets on and off of a court list. But don't be discouraged if the awards or the recommendations you put in don't happen. Just keep them up to date, toss in that the person has a new position, or they've made this cool new thing, or they've continued doing this, they've taught at another event, they've won another tournament, whatever cool thing it is that they've succeeded at that you think they need recognition for. Keep those up to date. Let the Crown know where they can catch that person, and eventually it will happen. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they hang out on there longer than we'd like. The fact that I have given AOAs to people who've been in the society for over a decade is just it's heart-wrenching to me. I'm like, that shouldn't happen. No, but sometimes it does for one reason or another. But it's eventually those things will get given. I promise.
Excellent. Few more questions for you. I know we've got about 17 minutes or so I want to be very respectful of your time and the time of your populace that are viewing today, or any extended populace who have decided to check in with us. What would you like to see more of in your realm?
Sure. You do this.
We've talked about this a little bit, though funny enough, not because this question came in. Our concept of one mid-realm that you've heard us spouting and seen us write in every media that we possibly can is exactly that. We want to see more kindness, more support, more interaction, more smiling faces, more of our people and ourselves reaching out into new things. We want the Middle Kingdom to build. We want it to be strong. Maybe that's not what we are able to do because we have so many things going on with the return to events. But I hope that we can lay some groundwork for that.
No, I think that covers. I think this question really goes back to that idea we touched on earlier about sort of what we like best, what we've missed about the society. And it is that coming together from so many separate people that we are in the mundane world. When we come together, we are united by this passion for the past and this passion for recreating and reliving aspects of the past. And it is building on that togetherness and that unity and that being one body that celebrates all of these things together. That's what I always want to see more of.
Yeah, Her Majesty uses the word celebrate in a different way than I normally do, but I support it 100%. If you could take everything that I just said and say, we want to celebrate kindness, we want to celebrate support, we want to celebrate mid-realmers doing mid-realm things. We want to celebrate people becoming more excellent at what they do. I think that, especially now, I mean, we've just come off of what literally could be the hardest time this kingdom has ever known. maybe this country's ever known, right? I mean, as non-war kind of a thing. I think we could all use some celebration.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely the coming together that you're mentioning. I know when I first started with the SCA, that was one of the first things I noticed with the fighting, because it's so visible and it's the camaraderie that you have on the fighting field. But now when we're having so much struggle being able to be together, obviously a lot of people are wrestling with, can I fight, can I not, is this the right time? And some are, but a lot of practices, of course, been getting canceled for health reasons. But that emphasis on coming together in general, you didn't mention specifically fighting, you didn't mention a specific activity. What you mentioned was, I think, so much deeper in that concept of one mid-realm being whatever we as a group can make it. Am I interpreting that right?
Absolutely.
Nice, resounding absolutely. That's good.
Definitely, absolutely. We are outside of the society. We are all unique people. Inside the society, we are all unique people. But we have this commonality. We have this connection. We have this camaraderie, as you said, and that is the most important thing in my mind.
Mhm.
Excellent. Well, got just a couple more questions that have been submitted for you. And this next one may be arguably the most challenging one that you're going to get.
Okay.
I love the adjustment of the crown there. Everybody's ready to go. And I have to emphasize, as you well know, Your Majesties, I did not write this question. And I know that you did not either. But this is a question that was submitted. Quote, how do you continue to be so awesome? Unquote.
Good luck. I'm going to go with good luck.
I'll take this one. I'll take this one. I am not awesome. Anything that anyone sees that's a positive in me is a reflection of Her Majesty. Her Majesty is awesome. She is absolutely the shining light for us, for me and for many of us. She is a beacon of wisdom. Everything that I am, I owe 100% to Her Majesty. So if there's anyone here who's awesome, Queen of Light and Science here.
All right, this is on video, so y'all can't see the blushing. There's a lot of blushing because that's what I do in these situations. You're pretty awesome. I mean, you're not bad.
Marginal?
Yeah.
Am I marginal?
You're at least marginal, maybe slightly better. I really think it's. I don't even know how to answer that question without it being all ego, other than to say thanks for thinking we're awesome. We tried. That's really all I've got there.
So this is totally non-period, but in the back of my head, I'm thinking, if this is the perfect opportunity to say, that's my jam. Everything is awesome.
I appreciate that at least this person thought that we're pretty awesome. I'm sure that whoever this person is was directing to Her Majesty. But thank you. We just want to do a good job. And I hope that we are doing a good job.
We try.
We'll try.
That's what I got.
We try.
Well, thank you for putting yourself in the uncomfortable position of answering the question and being good sports to do so.
Well,
one final submitted question for you.
All right.
And I think it's a great one for us to really end on tonight before we wrap up and plug our next, or your next session, not my next session. How would Your Majesties like your reign in this time of tremendous transition and challenge to be remembered?
Oh, that's another really tough one and a good one. Got anything?
you want to go?
I can try.
I'll let you go.
Do you have an answer?
I need a minute.
I was going to just let you go, so I can have a minute.
We got just under 10, so we can take a minute.
Right. So I mean, hopefully positively. That's the easy answer, right? You know, you can dream about building legacy, but you know that's not something that's easy to create in the moment. But I worry less about our reign and us specifically being remembered. What I hope is that we help the mid-realm and the people in the mid-realm create ways and create good traditions. Trying to think about ways to put this without sounding, you know, all ego, because it's so not about me when I do this. But I think back on our first reign, one of the things we actually started during our first reign, the Moneyers Guild made us wonderful little coins, as they have for every one of our reigns, for our first reign, and we kept thinking about ways to use them. And what we ended up doing was handing them out to people who were at their first event. And that it was a small coin specific to that particular reign. And what's been fascinating in the last mumbledy years is to watch that tradition continue and grow. So I have no idea if I've succeeded at it, but hopefully in this reign, we've given the mid-realm something else that they can take and make better, whether we're remembered for it or not. Are you okay?
That's a great one.
Yeah, okay, good.
So I think what we wanted to do with these fireside chats is we wanted to lift the veil. We wanted to lay ourselves out and answer questions. Master Tonus has gotten the questions. We've not eliminated any of the questions. This is all that we had come in. When I talk about lifting the veil, I would like to have our reign remembered as being fairly open with knowledge, being fairly giving with trying to expand the understanding of how the kingdom works. Yes, we're sitting in these awesome thrones because we won a tournament. But what you don't see is the dozens of emails that come in every day, the award recommendations that we read, that you send, and we try to parse through and sometimes condense dozens of recommendations for a given person into one award. What you don't see are the conversations we have with our 4 peerage orders and the Curia, all trying to guide the kingdom through a difficult time so that that light at the end of the tunnel is really a light, and we can go out into the sun again and we can play in fields. What we don't want to have happen is we don't want that light at the end of the tunnel to be a locomotive coming back at us. So a lot of our time is spent developing ideas and talking to peers and non-peers and new folks and barons and baronesses about what they're going to do next. How are they going to recruit? And it's not that we have all of the answers. We just want people talking about it. What we have is the ability to give permission to people to succeed. And we did that recently with the craftsperson's green, which I think is a great idea, right? Well,
absolutely. A lot of people got a lot out of that.
Yeah, I love that idea. We all sit and do crafts. Why don't we have a space for that?
Credit where credit is due. It was Gregoire's idea. We simply gave it a push.
And then we pushed it into Serena's lap. And wow, it's a thing. It's awesome. I would like our reign to be remembered not for us, but for this time. It's a time when we get to come back. It's a time when we get to rebuild relationships. It's a time when the Middle Kingdom gets stronger. That's what I'd like this time to be remembered as. And when we step down, I would like to look back at this time and say, yep, I am stronger because of this time. And I hope that that's what people, what you guys as the people get out of this. That was a tough question, by the way.
That was a tough one. It was a good one to end on, though. I think, unless there's
And-
anything left. Notice what's left.
Actually, at this point, we've got just over 4 minutes, so it looks like we have just enough time for you to plug next week's special and whatever closing words your majesties have, and then our farewells for the evening.
Talk about next week.
Sure.
So as Tonus has said, we're continuing to do this next week, and sadly, Tonus is not joining us next week. Instead, you'll have His Majesty and I playing Tonus's role of asking the questions rather than answering them. So much easier. And our special guests will be 4 members of our Curia, 4 of our great officers of state. So get your questions in for them. Ask them all about their jobs and what it's like to be the power behind the thrones. And the ones doing the day-to-day hard work of making this kingdom run. But we're really looking forward to that. We'll have the event up in all the social media, and the links for all of that done by our amazing Kingdom social media officer, without whom none of this would be possible. I look forward to seeing what amazing and difficult questions you guys have for us to ask them next week.
Yeah, and don't be nice to them.
No.
Like if there's ever been something you thought, I wish a kingdom officer would answer this. Go ahead, send us the question. We'd love to kind of put them on the spot a little bit, and in no other reason, and I say this in all jest, so that we can lift the veil. I don't think there are really any secrets to our administration of the kingdom. Maybe there are some secrets that we can't talk about because our governing documents do not allow us to. But when it comes to how do I become an officer, what does that officer do, blah, blah, blah.
Why would you ever take that office in the first place?
Right, I feel like I've just been attacked. Right. Go ahead, send us in those questions. We'll post the link out on their Royal Majesty's Facebook page, and that will also go to the Kingdom Facebook group page,
Yeah, all of the above.
whatever it is. And we look forward to those questions.
Yeah, and I thank you so much to Tonus for agreeing to do this and giving up part of his evening to hang out and chat with us for all of your entertainment. It's been an absolute delight. You are a pleasure. There's something else I was going to say. Yeah, Sarah's awesome. Sarah's super awesome. Without her, we'd be talking to a computer that didn't go anywhere. There was something else I was going to say. I don't remember what it was now.
Okay.
Might come to me later.
Can I close?
Yes. Oh, I remember it now. You can't close it. I'm not done. This has been fabulous. We got some great questions ahead of time. What I wanted to say is if you have questions that have popped into your mind in the last hour as you've listened to this, please catch us on social media, catch us in person at events when we can have them again safely, or you know, however you want to get in touch with us and ask us questions. If we can answer them, we will make up an answer on the spot. And, to the best of our abilities, but this isn't a one-time thing for us. We want to be available and open for people who want to know more about anything. Now you can close.
You sure?
Yes.
Anything else?
No.
I mean, it's all yours, baby.
No, I'm good.
We'd really like to thank everyone who was involved in the production of this. You guys are awesome. Folks that have come to listen, we appreciate you. We are here because of you in every way, shape, and form. Tonight, I hope that you heard us say how important the people were and how important it was to serve the people. We're not kidding when we say one mid-realm. We may all be part of the society, but beginning of the day and end of the day, we're dragons of the Middle Kingdom. Roar. And everything we do, everything is about mid-realm. So thank you very much. We appreciate your time. This recording will be up for a couple of days. We're going to treat it like an event, and we look forward to seeing everyone next week.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you very much, Your Majesty. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, you too.
Bye.